roll the damn intro. What's up, everyone? It's Shaft, aka That Mill Guy, coming at you with my first-hand reaction to Ruined Crab and how I believe you should be thinking about Ruined Crab and how you should be moving forward in your deck building with our beautiful mill companion. Now, before we hop right into the card itself, I do want to give a quick shout out to an enchantment that just got revealed only day one of Zendikar Spoilers, but there is something that's interesting, Confounding Conundrum, an enchantment that just got revealed that I think has interesting synergies against opposing big mana decks. Not that we have problems against those strategies, but obviously the Ram strategy is going to have a real problem against this card, multiple lands entering. But remember that it also stops fetch lands, so this does have interesting purposes against some of the maybe kind of 3-color decks and just kind of aggressive mana bases and stuff like that. And obviously with Field of Ruin has some interesting synergies where if they already put a land down, you can Field of Ruin and kind of destroy a land and kind of bounce it back to their hand. Lots of tempo. You thin their deck a little bit, force them to search, land gets bounced back. So kind of stuff like that. Think about this card, but look, we all know what you're here for. It's going to be Ruined Crab. Now, this card itself, I'm so excited. I love this card. Okay, so there's been months. We've been talking about for months in the Mill Discord about how just the meme has been like, what if they just functionally reprint Hedron Crab? And the Mad Lads did it. They freaking did it. So look, before I start rambling, what are the differences? What are the key differences? So let's highlight them here. So the first things first, power and toughness. This is a 0-3, Hedron Crab's a 0-2. So this is going to be able to better block some of the cards out of maybe like Burn and some of the cards out of Human. So that's huge. Okay, so a better body on the battlefield is very important, especially when you consider cards like Manic Scribe being relatively useful in that sense. A lot of people touted its amazingness for its body. Well, now we got a 0-3 for one less. The other part is that its landfall trigger, the mill, sacrifices the ability to mill yourself, instead gets around Leyline by saying each opponent. So that is the other big proponent of this. We lose some self synergy, which is more a niche case, but helps us against some of our tougher matchups, maybe something like Neobrand or maybe like Bogles that brings in Leyline. So that's kind of fantastic there. The milling yourself does have some small repercussions there. So a big thing that the mill decks were playing were Cling to Dust, and we'll see where that card ends up, just because now with this card, I'll get into a bit, the lists are becoming a little bit too tight. So you're not going to be able to feed yourself into your graveyard with that, but Mesmeric Orb can do that trick, and especially in Sultai Mill, losing that ability to mill yourself can kind of hamper your ability to find Earl, but now your aggressive mill plan is a lot more forwarded. Now, one of the questions that's been on everyone's mind, do you play Hedron Crab or Ruined Crab? God damn, folks, you play both. You play both. One of the big questions that's been coming up in so many mill discussions has been, why, like, what's wrong with mill? The spells are just bad. Like, how do we improve them? Well, look, we've taken one of the single best mill cards ever printed and created a functionally better version of it. Like, really? It's really just a functionally better version for most of our purposes in Modern. Why would you not just play both of them? 8 freaking crab, all right? Like, get your fetch lands out, get your Field of Ruins out, and go to freaking town. All those control decks, all those ramp strategies, all those big mana decks, tell them to have fun and take their deck all the way back to the trash bin, to the trade binder. Get them back. Get them out of here. You're going to be ending your LGS with all 8 crabs. So using that as a transition to going into how we should be playing the card itself. So we're obviously going to be playing 4 and 4. And when we're talking about kind of previous deck lists and new deck lists, I'm going to have a link to, as of the recording of this video, my current Dimir deck list down in the description box. Now, using that as a template, we have some idea as to some flex slots in the deck that can be easily shifted around to constitute these new cards. So I'm thinking about slots that are using maybe Ensnaring Bridge in the main board, Search for Iskanta, Collective Brutalities, just kind of these extra flavor cards, maybe that 4th Drown in the Loch, something, or that 22nd land, which I'll get into in a second. And so those are and so you start seeing that it's very easily fittable in the main board of many of your mill decks. So that shouldn't be a concern. The next thing that I want to talk about is the land base. So in my recent interview with Delthar, link to that somewhere on the screen right now, watch this first before and then check that out. Delthar was talking about how he really enjoys playing Inquisition of Kozilek. And, well, hey, it's a fantastic card, but now instead of playing Inquisition, we got Ruin Crab. But I like what he did with playing 21 lands. That's been one of the bigger discussions of playing 22 or 21. I'm actually thinking about potentially freaking playing 20 lands. Look, you could be playing 4 Fatal Pushes, 4 Ruin Crab, 4 Hedron Crab, 4 Surgicals. Your curve is really, really, really small. So you could potentially get away with just playing 20 lands. So that's definitely something to test in the streams and the videos coming up. Look out for that. But the mana base will also need to take a bit of a shift. So remember that you still want to play 6 to 7 fetches. I'm leaning on 6 right now, but you could probably fit a 7th. And you want to be playing a little bit more, some more basics, but more blue sources. That's the key here, because we have this second 1-drop as a 4F copy. We need to make sure we have access to untapped blue consistently. So potentially we could be shaving a Field of Ruin, maybe dropping our Shelldock Isles, playing Darkslick Shores because we want to make sure that our Fatal Pushes and our Surgicals are also kind of usable, but playing stuff like that. Now, another thing to consider with this, kind of outside of the land count, is that in our sideboard, we've always been playing stuff like Damnation and kind of Bontu's Last Reckoning. Now that we have more valuable creatures to protect, another thing to consider is, do we start shifting away from that and going back to playing Ensnaring Bridge and Plague Engineers? Even though Eldrazi-tron is still around, and that's one of the bigger reasons to run the bigger board wipes, man, it's looking a lot better to just protect our Hedron Crabs instead of wiping them away. So definitely something to consider, as this is now potentially a way for us to really race against the prowess decks and the red decks, just having this extra set of crabs. Imagine the chances of you just having 3 crabs on the battlefield and a fetch land. That's 18 freaking cards milled, and you haven't even spent any mana on that. Like, ideally on that turn you play that fetch. That's crazy. So definitely something to consider there. Another thing I want to talk about here, kind of 2 cards. So I've already kind of talked about Plague Engineer and Ensnaring Bridge, but another set of cards that I want to talk about firstly is going to be Fraying Sanity. Now, Fraying Sanity is really interesting here because now, not only is it just like, oh, you kind of need to untap with it. It's a 3 mana do nothing. Well, hey, look at the chances of us having a lot of Hedron Crabs on the battlefield. It still counts the amount of cards that went into the library, went to the graveyard that turn. So if you kind of on turn 3 fetched, milled a bunch of cards with your crabs out and then played Fraying Sanity, you got that out. You've done the damage. That's already kind of sick. Like then it doesn't really become a 3 mana do nothing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more consistent. So I'm really considering potentially going up 1 to 2 copies of Fraying Sanity in the main board of my list. So that's definitely something to consider. The next card I want to talk about, although a little bit more niche, don't leave it behind. It's going to be Force of Negation. Now, Force of Negation, a lot more interesting just because we have another playset of blue cards in the main board. So if we see more degenerate decks coming around, maybe something like Neobrand becoming more consistent and just kind of anything like that, Force of Negation is definitely going to be something to consider. So keep that in the back of your mind. I think the meta shift from Zendikar is definitely showing that ramp is going to be huge. Big mana is going to be huge. Land bases are going to be really important. So maybe what I was saying before about losing that 4th Field of Ruin might not be a great idea. You still keep the 4, but a lot of the meta is going to be really favored for us. Big mana has been notably very favored for the mill deck. So just having Force of Negation to be prepared for maybe some degenerate matchups could be in our favor. So definitely something to consider there. Now, those are really the big points that I want to touch on. I think the final point I want to touch on here is going to be for the outside of Dimir mill deck. So with Mono Blue, this is obviously almost a shoe-in. I'm kind of curious. Mono Blue really operates in a different way. It's a control-heavy style and just kind of wants to be explosive. But now that with 4 more crabs, it has much more of a forward context with that. Another mill with the kind of Mono Blue theme is the 12 crab variant. Because remember, our are the black sheep of the family, Iceberg Cancrix, the kind of meme crab that was never brought up. Well, hey, if your mana base becomes primarily snow, well, hey, Iceberg Cancrix isn't that bad. All right, like, it's not that bad. So 12 crab could be a very fun kind of mono blue, maybe splash black variant of mill. So definitely look out for me testing that on stream or on the channel. So yeah, definitely, I got my eye on that one. Finally, let's talk about my favorite variant of mill outside of Dimir, Sultai. As the creator of the strategy itself, I hold this very dear. I'm always looking closely at the results, especially from individuals such as Z Monkeys. Thank you for doing God's work out here with the competitive results. But with Sultai, there's actually enough flex slots for the 4 crabs to go into. Believe it or not, you could remove. There's, off the top of my head, it's rather tight. There are at least 4 flex slots. There might be a 5th, but bare minimum, there's 2 to 3. You could squeeze in that 4th crab somewhere. So it's definitely doable. But the conversation right now, with lands being a big theme in Zendikar Rising, is could we potentially get a mill ETB land? The minute we get a mill ETB land, I'm telling you right now, quoted here right now on video, Sultai Mill is going to shift into Simic Crab Shift. That's it. That's what it's going to be. We're going to be playing Uros, remove black, decide to, we're going to play some counter package, removal package. We're going to play some Dryads. We're going to play some Field of Deads. We're going to play some Valakits. And we're definitely going to be playing some mill lands and shifting away with our Hedron Crab. So that, I'm super excited for that. So I'm actually fingers crossed we get a mill ETB land. I think that would be super sweet. But regardless, the Sultai Mill gets a huge buff from this. It just becomes even more aggressive on the mill plan, and that way the side plan becomes obviously even more accentuated while people are concentrating on the mill plan. But I see Simic Crab Shift being rather close. I think people already want to test it, and I think it's possible. I definitely will. But the minute a mill ETB land, something like a Valakut or whatever for mill comes out, that's it. That's a wrap. We got a whole new mill variant. So definitely look out for that. Now that's going to be about it. Those are all my thoughts on Ruined Crab. Let me know what you think. What deck lists are you already brewing with it? Obviously, I got my 2 down below. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Message me anywhere. You got me on the Mill Facebook group, Mill Discord, on Twitter, whatever it is. Shoot me a message. I'd love to do some brainstorming with you. And obviously, in the Mill Discord, everyone else would love to do some brainstorming with you. The Mill Discord is a fire with stuff right now. Conversations, great individuals, great minds. But talking about great minds, if you want to support me and you want to help keep the quality high and the lights on, the Patreon is what you want to be joining. I foresee a big kind of forward shift for Mills, so hello to all the new viewers on the channel. If you like what you're seeing and you want to see more of it, you want to see kind of my content grow, then please support me on the Patreon. That is the best way to do so, outside of your views and outside of just hanging around. But other than that, we're going to end it there, and I hope everyone knows that even the impossible is possible. And as we ponder that thought, I hope you'll join me next time as we take a glimpse into the unthinkable.